specialist to manager should not be underestimated. The shift from being the one who produces the goods or delivers the services to the one who creates the optimal circumstances for others to produce the goods or deliver the services. It's truly one of the most challenging transitions in business. But this section will help you make that transition as smoothly and effectively as possible. There are several pitfalls as a new manager, including not understanding your new role, not understanding the logic of your organization's operations, or moving too fast forward in an attempt to try to prove yourself. The basic, most common question amongst new managers is, am I good enough? Being a manager can be an immensely rewarding experience and a great opportunity to serve other people. Your journey as a manager will have its stages, and the beginning stage is about understanding your role and what your mission is. You want to avoid some of the most common pitfalls, but also learn to stand up again those times when you will inevitably fall. This course will help you become a great leader and a great manager, but being a successful manager is a lot about on-the-job experience, especially the tougher kind where you proceed working beyond your current capabilities and proceeding by trial and error. Many star individual performers are not used to making mistakes. If they are then promoted to manager, the concept of learning through mistakes is new to them. Few new managers are aware in stressful and mistake-making moments that they are learning. This is a learning that happens gradually in steps. Seeing mistakes as learning experiences will be key to your successful management career. As this process slowly progresses, as you unlearn old mindsets and habits that have served you over a likely successful early career, a new professional identity will emerge. You will internalize new ways of being, doing, and thinking. You will discover new ways to measure success and gain satisfaction from work. It should come as no surprise that this kind of psychological adjustment is energy consuming. New managers inevitably think about two questions. Will I like management? Will I be good at management? And these two questions are joined by one that touches you deeper. Who am I becoming? As you have probably guessed, there are no direct answers. You find your answers through experience. To wrap up this introduction, as a specialist or independent contributor, your focus was likely on your individual performance and success. Becoming a manager and a leader will require you to focus on the needs of others before your own. Your success will now be measured by the success of your team, including the professional growth of each team member. This is what a so-called servant leadership or servant leader mindset is all about. It is a bottom-up approach instead of a traditional top-down one. It is about helpful guidance rather than commanding delegation. It's about building trust and respect by proving your intention and character to do the right thing for your team and for the organization. There are a series of questions that can be helpful to ask yourself before you decide to become a manager or at the start of your managerial career. The most important question is, do you like leading people? Ask yourself if you really want to become a manager. Being a successful and effective manager involves a lot of people leadership. Organizations around the world are sprinkled with people who have been promoted to management without really liking the idea of leading people. This leads to ineffective teams, poor psychological working environments, as well as teams and managers who are basically miserable and underperforming. If after asking yourself honestly you realize that you do not really like the idea of leading people, then I highly recommend you to explore other options within your organization. Talk to your HR department, human resources, or equivalent, and find out what other career paths are available for you as a specialist without having to become a manager. Please note that the fact that you like the idea of leading people does not have to mean that you are super good at it. You will have plenty of opportunities to learn and grow along the way, including in this course. But it is vital that you at least like the idea of leading people. After answering that first basic question, continue with the following questions. It is not necessary that you answer yes to all of them, but they will help you further clarify if management is a good choice for you. If you do not answer yes to a majority of them, I would advise you to reconsider your work as a manager at this time. 1. Can you let go of your own to-do list? Are you willing to work on creating the best circumstances for your team members to work on their to-do lists? It is essential that you let go of at least part of your old tasks and learn to focus more on the success of your team members. 2. Are you willing to become a great communicator? Are you willing to listen more than you speak? Being a great leader means being able to communicate clearly, to communicate information, to acknowledge behavior that supports the goals, and give feedback about specific behavior that does not, and to focus more on understanding than on being understood. 3. Are you willing to be accountable for your team's success? A great leader has the mindset that if the team succeeds, you succeed. If the team fails, you fail. It also means that you take the time to celebrate your team's successes, big and small, together with your team. 4. Are you ready to spend time helping your team members grow and meet their career goals? If you aim to be the biggest cog in the wheel, you are likely to become the biggest clog in the wheel. In other words, put your ego aside and focus on helping your team members become all they can be. 5. Can you set a great example for your team? People do not primarily do as you say, they do as you do. Don't expect your team to be on time if you have a habit of slacking with times. Don't expect your team to rally behind what's best for the organization if you secretly steal pens to bring home from the office. 6. Can you support your organization's goals? As a manager, you become the organization's representative towards your team. One part of the golden rule of the double representative states that you do not backtalk or give up on your organization's leadership or goals when you are with your team. 7. Can you be objective and fair? Having favorites in your team that you give special treatment is a straight highway to disaster. Being overly colored by your own personal agenda or emotions when dealing with team members will also dig yourself into a deeper hole. 8. Are you willing to make the tough calls? Are you willing to hold a talk about a difficult topic with a person, for example, if they are misbehaving at work? Are you willing to fire people if and when it is needed? Courage should be your new bedmate as a manager. Courage does not mean the absence of fear, but means doing what is right even when you feel fear. 9. Are you ready to be in the spotlight? Becoming a manager will inevitably mean that you become more visible. Being a manager is one of the most rewarding experiences there is, but there can also be times when you need to be able to deal with unfounded criticism or upset feelings that are more directed toward the manager role than you as a person. 10. Have you built relationships with people beyond your immediate team? If no, are you willing to start doing that? Successful managers are good relationship builders, period. This includes the relationship with your team members, but also with other people in your organization and outside. Your team does not exist in a vacuum, and when you need the support of another team in your organization, it will help immensely if they know how much you care before they need to care about what you know. In conclusion, please do not get intimidated by these questions, but do take an honest look at yourself if you really want to become a manager to save both yourself and others heartache. But do remember that you need not to master all of this from the start. You will learn and grow along the way as long as there is a will. The will is more important than the skill in the beginning of your management career. As someone said, every master was once a disaster. Just make sure You do not create a management disaster by becoming a manager when you really do not want to become one. So here it is, the top 3 list of psychological obstacles that will stop you from making that shift into a really great manager. And I promise I will not leave you hanging. You will also get some of my best tips and advice for managing those obstacles in a good way. At number 3 on the list, what you get acknowledgement for. We all want acknowledgement. We all want to feel seen, heard, that we're doing something great, that other people see us, hear us, experience us in different ways. So what you get acknowledgement for, when you were that specialist, when you were producing the goods, delivering the service, let's say you worked with computers, maybe people told you, wow, you're great with that software, you're great with that skill with the keyboard, solving those problems, whatever it is, coding, whatever it was that you're great at. Now the thing is, when you shift into a manager, there are, as we have seen in other lessons elsewhere, there are some skills that you need to acquire to become a really great manager. And when you shift into that, there can be like a vacuum, like an empty space, because you don't get acknowledgement for the other stuff. Let's say for being a great listener, for giving people feedback, for managing their time and your own time, and creating strategies and so forth. If you don't get that feedback, that acknowledgement, as you seek acknowledgement, it's easy to fall back onto the old stuff. And instead of spending your time being a great manager, you fall back into being a great specialist. The solution to this obstacle? Make a list. I ask participants in my trainings to make a list of the top 10 things they have received acknowledgement for in the past 3 years related to their work. And they make this list. And then I ask them to look at it. Are these things related to being a specialist or being a manager? And many times they find that the majority is about being a specialist. So just become aware of that, if there's whatever the balance is for you. And what does it look like today in your new manager role if you're already in there? Do you get acknowledgement for that other stuff? Ask for feedback from your manager. And if you don't get it from your manager, ask him, what do you think I'm doing well as a new manager? What do you think I'm not doing so well? And if he or she doesn't give it to you, go to the next step. Find someone else who is an experienced manager who can give you some feedback, who sees you sort of in the every now and day things of business, and give you that feedback on your performance as a manager. At number 2, wanting to belong. It's this psychological drive we have of being a social being. We want to be part of a group, most of us. We have some people who prefer to live life of their own on their own, but we want to belong. The majority of the time we want to belong to a group. And moving into a manager, things are going to change. And the solution? First of all, face the fact. It will not be the same. You might still be able to maintain a friendly relationship with your team, with your co-workers, if you shifted into being a manager, but it's not going to be the same as being in the team. Also, talk about expectations with your team. What do you expect from them? Ask them, what do you expect from me? What do you want from a really great manager? Don't worry about the insecure part about it, if that makes you seem insecure. They will, most of the time, they will open up if you put it out there in a good way. You share your expectations on them and ask them, in the group or individually, what do you kind of want from me? I really want to help you perform really well. What do you want from me? What are your expectations on me as a manager? At number 1 on the top 3 list is the sentence, I am the only one who is uncertain. I cannot tell you how many times in my more than 20 years working with leaders and managers around the globe that they come to me and they tell me I'm probably the only one who doesn't have it all together, who is uncertain about my manager role. And let me tell you, pretty much everyone, there are probably a few exceptions, but I'm going to say everyone anyway. So everyone feels insecure at different points in their management career, especially when they're new managers, and even experienced managers. I've had CEOs who still have that. The solution, as I mentioned a moment ago, admit it to yourself. Be honest about it to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Just face it. Okay, I'm uncertain about this. That's usually where the freedom comes from. And then Dare to ask for help. Some managers I find they limit themselves in their growth and what they can achieve in the team and the organization by thinking they have to know it all. Ask someone for help. If you're not comfortable asking your nearest boss, ask someone else within the organization or outside the organization. Get a mentor, get help from someone, go online, whatever. Find places where you can get support. I will promise you, you are not the only one asking those questions. There's some people try to hide it, but I've seen behind so many of those facades, it's there. So dare to ask for help and it will increase your potential as a manager hugely because you will grow from it. Using the attached download sheet, take some time to reflect on yourself and assess yourself on a scale from 0 to 10 for each proven and vital leadership skills. Please remember that this is not intended as a comparison with other managers. It's just for you to assess yourself and see which areas you need to focus on improving the most. And if you use it over time, you can also track your progress and see where your development focus needs to be. Coaching. How skilled are you at asking questions that help other people perform better, reach better results, and use more of their potential? Delegation. How good are you at helping others understand what specifically needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and how progress will be measured and evaluated? Organizational knowledge. How well do you know your organization's vision, overall goals and values, as well as your organizational structure and how the different parts of the organization play together? Vision and strategy. How good are you at crafting a vision for your team that is in line with the overall vision, as well as formulating and planning strategies to fulfill that vision? Operations planning. How skilled are you at planning the operations of an entire team in a way that is in line with the overall objectives of the organization and creates a clear, actionable path forward that can be precisely evaluated? Goal setting. How well are you able to set specific, measurable, and inspiring goals for yourself and for others? Follow up. How skilled are you at following up with others on their goals and planned activities in a way that ensures optimal performance, growth, and acknowledgement? Prioritization. How good are you at prioritizing the use of your time so you do not get swamped by ineffective tasks and are able to free up plentiful time for the leadership of your team members and your organizational responsibilities? Motivation. How well can you inspire yourself and others to go above and beyond, as well as turning on the inner drive in other people by connecting to their sense of purpose and meaning? Relationship building. How skilled are you at building trusting and respectful relationships with team members and other people in your organization, both those who you find it easy to interact with and those that provide you more of an interpersonal challenge? Communication. How well are you able to communicate your opinions, ideas, and directives clearly, to give and take constructive feedback, and to truly listen to others with presence and without prejudice? Conflict management. How good are you at seeing the issues at hand, daring to bring them out into the open, and dealing with them in a way that promotes understanding and progress, rather than fear and locked positions? Decision making. How skilled are you at, within a reasonable time, collecting the needed facts, and then based on those facts and on your inner compass, making clear-cut and timely decisions in the perceived best interest of the overall picture? Performance appraisals. How good are you at regularly evaluating the performance of others and, in a conversation based on mutual responsibility, rewarding beneficial behavior as well as creating actionable plans for improving less beneficial behavior? Authenticity. How willing are you to be your true self in your leadership, as well as to be open about both your strengths and your shortcomings? Becoming a manager will require a new skill set and a shift of focus as you go from specialist to manager. I want to share with you some of the key distinctions, some of the key shifts in focus and skill set between being that specialist and being a great manager. Firstly, let's look at results. As a specialist, you get your results through personal efforts and often in cooperation together with other teams. As a manager, your results will come through other people. So through others, instead of just through personal efforts and cooperating with other teams, you will have to shift to thinking of acquiring your results through other people. When it comes to productivity, as a specialist, it's all about your personal productivity, whilst as a manager, you focus on the productivity of a team and the individuals in that team. Your relationship to a team. As a specialist, you're often a member of some sort of a team. As a manager, it's all about building effective and successful teams. So again, a key shift here in relation to teams. When it comes to planning, as a specialist, you plan your own work for personal success. As a manager, you plan the team's work and you plan for performance management. The development focus as a specialist is about your own production and the skills related to your own production. That's what you focus on developing. Whilst as a manager, you focus on developing your management and leadership characteristics. Further, let's look at specific skills. A specialist will primarily have primary technical or professional skills related to their production, to their work, and also some skills when it comes to cooperating with others in those teams that we talked about previously. A manager, on the other hand, the main skills would be including planning when it comes to managing other people, to be able to plan their work and managing other people. Assigning work, so figuring out who's going to do what work to be most effective. Coaching and counseling, being able to relate to people and lead them in a way that awakens their inner resources and makes them be there and do their very best. Another key skill as a manager is being able to measure the work of others, so you can quantify it and measure it to provide accurate feedback to the individual and to the organization. And also hiring and firing, recruiting is a key part of this, learning to recruit good people for your team. And also times we will have to have that talk about a challenging topic when you need to fire someone is most likely also going to be part of your skill set for your management career. When it comes to time, as a specialist, you focus on completing your own tasks on time. That's your main focus, and you put in a full effort all day. Well, hopefully, there might be some breaks in between there. And also being on time is a key definition of a specialist's relationship to time. Looking at the manager, the shift that occurs here is related to time, that you start working more in annual cycles and thinking in annual cycles, not just the project cycles, but also in the long term. And another key thing related to time, making sure you make time available for others within your work schedule. So you create that space where you are available to other people. Otherwise, you might end up in that trap where either your people can never get a hold of you, or you're totally overworking those 70, 80-hour work weeks. So you need to allot time to make it available for other people. And finally, what does a specialist value in the best case scenario? A specialist would value accepting the company culture and practices, exhibiting a professional pride in their work that they do, and also would value prudent use of company resources, meaning using the materials and the resources at hand in a prudent and proper way. A manager, on the other hand, would value things like managerial work, moving away from that specialist stuff working on just on your own task, but valuing actually managing other people and helping others to accept the company values. That would also be a key aspect of what a good manager values, helping other people to understand and to accept the company values and culture. And also a key value for a manager to have is valuing success through others, moving away from just personal, your own success, but moving into highly valuing being able to achieve success through and with other people. There are many myths related to becoming a manager, and several of them are simply not true. Believing in these myths or acting upon them is a common reason why new managers fail in their role. Because the myths are incomplete and overly simplistic, they lead you to neglect key leadership responsibilities. It is common among new managers in their new role to expect to gain authority. Instead, they find themselves surrounded by interdependencies. They expect feeling free, but instead they feel constrained. This is especially true if they were used to the relative freedom and independence of a high performer. These interdependencies that new managers are surrounded by are a web of relationships, not only with your team members, but also with your bosses, other managers on the same level as yourself, as well as other people outside and inside your organization. All these people make a series of demands on you. Demands which can often be conflicting. This can lead to daily routines that are experienced as hectic, pressured, and fragmented. To quote one new manager, "The fact is that you really are not in control of anything. The only time I am in control is when I shut my door. And then I feel I am not doing the job I'm supposed to be doing, which is being with the people." If you cling to that myth of authority, you will not be able to lead effectively as a manager. It is vital that you learn to accept the interdependencies, the relationships that come with the role, and that you're willing to learn to play that game well. There can definitely be power associated with being a manager, even with these interdependencies. The problem is just what you consider to be the source of that power. It is a mistake to believe that the source of this power is formal authority, that the power comes from your new position in the organizational hierarchy. This belief leads many new managers to take on a very hands-on, autocratic approach. Not because the new manager is eager to exercise their new power over people, but because he or she thinks this is the most effective way to produce the expected results. Following a few painful experiences, the new manager comes to the somewhat unsettling insight that the source of power is not about formal authority. Instead, that source of power comes from establishing trust, respect, and credibility with team members, peers, and superiors. In the words of another new manager, "It took me 3 months to realize I had no effect on many of my people. It was like I was talking to myself." Let's look at some more of these common myths of being a new manager. Myth number 1. The new role is characterized by authority. Finally, I have the freedom to implement my ideas. Reality. The new role is characterized by interdependence. It is humbling that someone who works for me could get me fired. Myth number 2. The source of power is formal authority. I will now be on top of the ladder. Reality. The source of power is informal trust, respect, and credibility. Folks were cautious, and you really had to earn it. Myth number 3. The desired outcome is control. I must get compliance from my subordinates. Reality. The desired outcome is commitment. Compliance does not equal commitment. Myth number 4. The sole managerial focus is to manage one-on-one. My role is to build relationships with individual subordinates. Reality. The managerial focus should also be about leading the team. I need to create a culture that will allow the team to fulfill its potential. Myth number 5. The key challenge is keeping the operation in working order. My job is to make sure the operation runs smoothly. Reality. The key challenge is making changes that will make the team perform better. I am responsible for initiating changes to enhance the team's performance.